The Lions, they continue a trend that has, honestly, the fan base and the supporters and even some national media split. So much so that I hear people say, man, the Lions haven't signed anybody. I'm just like, well, they did get DJ Reed. And even those people go, oh yeah. And I think largely it's because of the fact that we all believed that the Lions were going to target edge rush help in free agency. And not only did that not really happen, but they lost the edge rusher that we all thought was going to be here next year so far to this point in Zadarius Smith. I'm hoping, and there is still an opportunity for them to be able to bring him back. That's what I'm hoping happens, because I was looking forward to what Zadarius Smith could be with Aiden Hutchinson. But one thing we know for certain is this. They did have to rely on their depth pieces last year, and one of those was your godson, Muhammad, being able to step up, playing above his role, playing way more opportunities than he probably thought he was ever going to play for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought he acquitted himself quite well from the edge position and at least trying to apply pressures at a time where we had to manufacture as much pressure on the quarterback as possible, KG.
Yeah, and he's more of a specialist. He's somebody that you want to bring in on passing downs. Like I said, I like the speed on this guy. He has solid handwork as well going against some of these tackles. And he's a good, he's a good piece. He's not somebody that's going to come in and just blow you away, but at the same time, he is somebody very capable of setting the edge, going out there and making plays, and primarily on passing down. So I think this is a very, very good signing for the Lions, and just once again, keeping your own guys that you're familiar with in your house. I know a lot of fans don't necessarily get intrigued by that, but at the same time, the Lions have a system that works, and I think we need to realize that as fans. This is what we've always wanted from the Lions organization, to be competent, to be an organization that, guys get their second contract with, and that is what we're seeing right now. They have a system that works. They're bringing some of their own guys back because they know what they can do. They know what they're capable of, and more times than not, you can pull something out of these guys, even if it's just for a play or two or a drive or a series. So I'm with it.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, voice of reason, JB Smooth, man. That's why I got to go to you in the TD booth right now. We're talking about the Detroit Lions. It seems to have been the summer of this team shoring things up. That's a word that we also heard from that dude Justin this morning. And when you talk about Brad Holmes and his vision to build for longevity, long-term success, we know that he's already gone and locked up some of his stars. We know that there's some more stars on the way, like a Hutch, hopefully, a Kirby Joseph as well, and others. You got Brian Branch in the future. But I do believe that deals like this, these smaller deals, you're not wrecking your long-term cap sheet and outlook. You're bringing these guys in for proven deals who showed you a little something last year, that they are your type of guys. They do have that DNA. And that's where I got to go to you in the TD booth as our voice of reason about, Rock Yassin as well as Muhammad being re-signed to the Detroit Lions.
I mean, once again, there's still depth pieces, but yet again, still two smart signings by Brad as well, too. You're not just throwing it out there, throwing a bag at one of these players or anything like that. And as KG said, Brad has a system. They like the guys that they've brought in, and once again, you want to bring them back in to see if they can do, a prove-it deal as well, too, to see as what they've built out there on the field. They like the guys that they've brought in once before, and they know their skill set. So once again, all they're trying to do is improve on that just a little bit more. And honestly, it's perfect. It's a perfect way to continue on with this team for the longevity as everyone wants to see. I know it's not the biggest, the sexiest name out there, but still at the same time, Brad is playing smart. Just let him continue to cook, and eventually you will see the fruits of all this worrying that we've been doing.
Yeah, JB, totally agree. And people also need to realize the fact that these guys were, put in such big spots last year and got playing time. I think that only helps them going forward. You keeping them in the system, they get a whole year of camp with the team. And when you put them out there in these spots, they have more experience to be out there and be able to make plays because they've been in that spot before.
And just kind of looking at his stats, you look at the fact that he largely played in 6 regular season games. And we know it was towards the back half of it when that defensive line was effectively decimated. And you look at the fact that he had in those 6 games 3 sacks and 4 stuffs. That's what I'm saying. So in his opportunities, he definitely was somebody that stepped up, and that's why I want to see, what the plan is for him moving forward, because we know Calvin Shepard, shout out to him as well in the sound booth, man of many talents.
Thank you.
He's going to have a vision, and we keep talking about the identity, the physicality of the types of players that it seems like they're identifying, whether it's somebody from the outside or some of the players that they have chose to resign versus the ones they've let walk. That's where I do look forward to seeing, are these going to be players that we're just hoping or they're depth pieces, or do they have some hope for a guy like Muhammad to be able to maybe step up and grab more opportunity?
I think they definitely have faith in Muhammad to do that. I think he showed that for sure, especially with the depleted defensive line he was playing with at the end of the season. He was one of our better defensive linemen at the end there, and he had a sack in the Minnesota game. He was making some big plays. He had a big play against the Commanders as well earlier in that game. So I mean, there's no
half
reason
sack a game for him.
Yeah.
for Muhammad. Like I'm okay with that.
There's nothing to poo-poo there. That's a great season from a depth piece. You just signed him for nothing, 1-year deal, prove a deal, which you have on most of your defensive ends. But where it comes down to is, I think people are just getting impatient. I think that this is one of the deepest drafts in terms of all the defensive positions that we need to fill. And I think Brad Holmes knows that. He wants to put someone next to Hutch for the next 5 years with a rookie contract, because he's about to huck up a bunch of more money to pay Hutch. I think that that's the best move. I mean, it would have been nice to bring in someone like Joey Bosa or someone of that caliber. But at the end of the day, Joey Bosa is known for not playing an entire season. Marcus Davenport is known for not playing an entire season. There are so many edges out there that have injury issues. And the best course of action is to re-sign Zadarius Smith on a cheaper deal and then go in the draft, bring in another edge in the first or second round that can be a positive next to Hutch, and you move forward with a defensive line where you have Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, and a rookie, and Zadarius Smith, Marcus Davenport and company backing him up.
Yeah.
That's a good enough defensive line to get you where you want to go.
Really good, especially when you think about the fact that to start the season, you're going to be waiting for an Aleem McNeil to heal up. To start the season, listen, we have high hopes and expectations for an Aiden Hutchinson, but wouldn't it be nice if those depth pieces can also step up and help his reintroduction to the game, not have to be, hey, Hutch, we need you at 150% right now. And that's where I look at these types of deals, and we went 15-2 with some of these guys that they're bringing back already. So it makes me very comfortable to know, like, our defensive line and our players can get healed up completely. They can get back into game action, because it's different practicing versus being in the game. You know what I mean? Is Hutch going to be in game action, game one of the season?
And injuries is the key word, because this Lions defense was top 10 when, early in the season before they incurred 23 fucking injuries. And I how quickly we forget about that. But at the same time, I don't doubt Brad Holmes for having a belief that, okay, we're right there. We just need maybe an ancillary piece or two. But overall, like, what I built was sustainable. It can work. You just need these guys to stay healthy.
And people have a recency bias towards Brad Holmes and the way he drafts, because there wasn't necessarily that elite return, which you saw in the previous 2 drafts from Brad Holmes. You saw more of a developmental year of picking. Terrion made some strides, Ennis Rakestraw didn't play a lot. You didn't get a lot of production from anyone else. And you're looking at, coming off drafts of Brian Branch and Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the well is deep. Okay.
Yeah. Very.
So 1 year of a developmental draft isn't going to define Brad Holmes. And if you go on his track record, he's going to do what's best for this team, what's right for this team, and he's going to pick someone that has an immediate impact. Regardless of how your opinion on Terrion Arnold, he made an impact last season.
Yes.
He was better than the ladder of Cam Sutton out there. Just straight up. And so now we're going to take another step in that evolution, and we're going to bring in some more players to fill in our holes on defense at the interior defensive line, at the edge, at linebacker if we feel like we need to do that as well.
Yeah.
I have so much faith in Brad Holmes, and he continues to show you the track record, the plan, what he's going to do with not signing a defensive end. He's obviously going to get one in the draft. Like, it's just, we just need to take a second as a Lions fan base, take a breath, and let Brad Holmes cook. You can critique him after the draft.
Yeah, and that's where on this show, especially, there were, when we talked heavily about Hendrickson and even Myles Garrett and the things that we would want personally, it was similar to the Tobias Harris conversation when we're like, hey, let's get that co-star for Cade. But if you go this route, these are some vets that can absolutely come in here and help you out. And when I look at this situation this way, it's a lot of the same, man, similarly. But I'm looking forward to the Detroit Lions hitting the ground running because they've kept a lot of the formula the same.
Yeah.
I do know there's going to be maybe some hiccups because you have some new coordinators in there, probably new styles and new types of decision making that you're going to have. But I do believe that bringing back more of the guys that did perform, I think that ultimately is going to give this team an opportunity to stay as consistent as we saw them last year.
Yeah.
But no road losses, 15-2, swept the division. That's the type of team that we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about some of the depth pieces that they're bringing in, and one of the things that we continue to talk about with some of these depth pieces that they've either re-signed or brought in from the outside is that what's their best ability? They're available. Their availability. So I do see Brad Holmes doing things to put himself in a position to be able to go into this draft and cook up, because that's what we were saying. Look, do we believe that we can see him kind of go this way with a Trey Hendrickson or Garrett, and do we want them to because of the fact that it will totally push them over the top and give them the best, bookends pass rushers in history? Yeah, we would love to see that. But we continue to say you got to trust in Brad, because I just believe he's going to go into this draft and cook up. Just part of me feels like there's a high possibility that he trades up again. This is something we've seen him do
It's where he makes
several
his money.
times.
It's his calling card.
Several times. And so if he has been doing things this way, and as well, the Rock Yassin one, I wonder if that means less of a chance that he does anything in the secondary in the draft, more of a chance that he builds up the trenches in the draft on both sides of the line.
Because we still got Rake and we don't know what he's going to be. So no, he's a big question mark, but I do expect him to get on the field this year and play. But once again, to your point, the Lions are a Super Bowl team because of how Brad Holmes has drafted, not because of players he has signed, because of the players he has drafted. A lot of our second and third year players are the reason the Lions are in the position they are in right now. We have to trust Brad Holmes, and once again, I can't stress this enough. We are still very early in this process. Even after the draft, you have post-June first cuts that are going to happen. You have stuff around training camp that will happen. We're going to get a edge rusher in one way or another. So we just got to be patient, and we got to wait for
and he's going to be added to a defensive line that's actually going to be better than the one that went 15-2 the majority of the season.
Exactly.
That's the thing. And now you have all across the defense now, the rooms are stocked full of dudes. All of them. This isn't like in the beginning where we're like, all right, when is he going to get to work on the secondary? All right, when is he going to get to work on the linebackers? We didn't know. Alexander Zaloni, and then when he got Jack Campbell and Malcolm Rodriguez, that these guys were going to be freaking pit bulls.
Yeah.
But look how this thing is starting to develop. So it's not even just the stars that are making this thing go, but it's also the guys that he has been able to identify either off the free agency market or lower in the draft without all of the herald, without all of the headlines. Some of us were even enraged enough to walk away. I love you, Brad. I love you, dog.
Yeah, man.
But this is where it's like you just gotta let Brad cook, because I'm gonna keep saying it. This was a 15-2 team last year, like without their dogs, without some of their best players, and now they're getting these guys back. Dan Campbell is not dead; he's still alive. Last I checked. He is one of the master motivators and one of the best coaches in this league. And it's not just the speeches. This guy has. You look at his coaching tree. He's come through some of the best coaches, period. Just period. And that's where I feel sometimes like, yes, there's things that we can want as fans and as media and as observers and as this and that. But at the end of the day, I still have to believe that what Brad Holmes, what Dan Campbell have shown is that they know this far better than me at all. And we've had these stare downs. You know what I mean? The first trade deadline of consequence before they made the playoffs, and all of us were like, you got to get the pass rusher. And the most he did was Uncle Bruce, who played one of the most pivotal roles during that run.
Got us a win.
Brad stood up there
got us a win.
I think we got enough. Everyone else was like, nah, bro, we only going to win one game at best. This team was that close to a Super Bowl. So that's where it's like, got to let Brad cook. 15-2 with these, largely a lot of these same players.
And don't be scared of the schedule.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of the schedule.
I
we
hate
heard that last
It's such
year,
a
bro.
cop out.
We heard that last year.
Literally, we will have 8 wins at home. We will win every game we play at home. And at that point, you just have to steal a couple games from some good road
I see
teams.
Gromit.
You're gonna win. You're gonna win some of those games. You're a good team. Like you're acting like Baltimore and Kansas City and all these teams are just levels above
Right.
where
No,
we
the
are.
Lions are eye level with these
We
teams now.
are the ish.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
bro.
We are the
Like,
ish.
We gotta have confidence in what the fuck we got, bro. Like Brad Holmes has built this thing to where it is sustainable, it is gonna last, and we are right there, bro. And like I said, as fans, I know y'all accuse us of being slapfest and you can't question. It's okay to have questions about Brad Holmes. Nobody is saying that. It's okay to have questions, but ultimately, where has Brad Holmes steered us wrong? He hasn't. And I respect the GM more for not putting us in, vicarious situations to where, okay, he's locking us into bad contracts or we can't advance. We can't get past a certain point because of some of the moves that he's made.
My man drive vicarious.
Yeah, man. Listen, man.
It's the word of the
And
day.
shout out for people
The crew's
dropping.
cooking,
Burn
dog.
dropped a $5 super chat. I have a problem with Terrion. Didn't play well. Crowd. Where's the game? TA was getting burned for 200 yards. Besides
my
penalties,
God.
what was the problem?
I'm sick
Exactly.
of talking TA with people that don't get it.
He's got penalty issues. That's it.
And he slowed
He
those
didn't
down.
even have those.
He didn't
He
have
had them
penalty
for-
issues after week 10, week 11.
Yep.
Did he have them after week 7?
Not
Like,
really.
I thought he stopped getting flagged. I felt like after like the first 8, 7, or 8
Not
weeks of the
excessively.
season.
He had a few here and there, but it stopped being as excessive. Like the first 2 weeks he had 2 or 3 a game, and he started getting down to like 0.75 a game.
And you know what? The Lions are one of those teams that benefited the least from those types of situations the other way around, too. So it's like when I look at some of these other teams who benefited from those, it's like this is what they are.
Yeah.
Our squad went out there, and it was like the Cade effect. He ain't going to get a whistle. With Terrion, it was the other way around. I didn't believe that all of those things, yes, he was a little handsy, but as you saw the season went on, things mellowed out
Bro.
for who he was as a cornerback. out there.
Compare him and Cam Sutton's numbers, then come back and talk to me. Like,
Sutton toast.
just flat out.
I'm seeing in the chat like just
We're going to have a
Terrion's
segment.
not like
We-
you guys are making it sound like
We're
Terrion's
gonna,
a Pro
have
Bowler.
a segment on it. Even if you can't be in studio that day, we will make sure you can VMix in. I do, because we're gonna have to get back to that. Obviously, the player previews as we enter the next season.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
think
sir.
a great place to start is with some of those rookies because, obviously in this Rakestraw, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. I want to see what the reports are coming out of camp from an Ennis Rakestraw compared to what they were last year. But with the TA, I do believe he's one of those lightning rods and one of those guys that we can go gather the comments from people around the league, because there were other coaches and other players who had a lot of good things to say about who Terrion Arnold was as a player, and be able to bring a real comprehensive breakdown of what he did this past season and where we believe he can go moving ahead, because the measurables are there, the technique is there, the ability to run the route with the receiver is there.
He's only
and
gonna get
some of the
better.
things that he had early in the season that were mistakes and issues, he kind of cleaned those up as the season went. I don't know, man.
Over
I'm
his
sick of
last
arguing
Without
with
Hutch.
people.
Over his last 3 games, according to Pro Football Focus, Arnold had allowed 8 catches on 15 targets. That's a 53.3% catch rate. And 41 of the 121 yards he has allowed came on 1 play in the last 3 games.
So then the
What
yards
do you
per
want from him?
catch, so everything was in front of him then.
everything was
effectively.
in front of him. He had one time he got beat deep, but other than
Do
that,
people not remember what we used
121.
to have in the secondary?
Yeah, bro.
I am like,
200-yard games for wide receivers the year before.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking
We're,
about?
we're- we're not trying to make him a Pro Bowler. We're just trying to
Goodness.
tell you he is
an
better
improving rookie.
than Cam Sutton, and he's improving. You
Yes.
saw the growth last season.
Let-
If you were watching,
Let's-
Corner is
maybe
a tough
maybe you
turnaround.
weren't watching. Maybe
No,
you weren't
I
watching.
want to do.
TA.
We got to do the segment. I want to hold that one. We got to get to what's trending. But yeah, the TA one is one. I didn't know it was that much of a lightning rod. I knew that there were some people, but I want to be able to break that one down. I see you over there, Justin.
Yeah.
Jay, who we got to say what up though? too, before we
Lunchbox, you
get
got
to
the
what's
right
trending?
idea, bro.
Justin's over there shaking his head. We gotta say what's up to Les Stanford, but first shout out to Crayons for Breakfast for also sending in $5 as well too
Shout
through
out.
Super Chat. He said, unfathomable as a Lions fan until recently, but my biggest fear is that with this plan we end up like the Steelers, perpetually losing in the playoffs. That sucks. But Les Stanford, Justin?
He's let's stand for. He over there looking at that.
He doesn't. He's like,
He
no,
over there
I'm
doing the
done.
research. He's getting ready for the segment already.
Justin tired of y'all.
All right.
We need a TA one. on next week.